My girlfriend is involved in a prank war with her guy friend that's lasted weeks, but now I think she is cheating because the pranks are getting out of pocket. My girlfriend of 2 years has had this male friend for a while. His name is Fernando, and I'm not his biggest fan, but I didn't want to impede on the friendship. So she told me last week that Fernando pranked her by calling her up and pretending to be Jack Nicholson with one of those soundboards. So she wants to get him back. So as a joke, the next time we were over at his place, she used his landline to call a SCGS hotline that charged by the minute and then just left the phone there. Fernando gets charged like $200 for it. So Fernando strikes back at her again. He comes over to her place for a party she was throwing, then hides this creepy headless doll in her closet. She finds it, freaks out, but then starts laughing. Now she wants to prank Fernando even harder. So she knows he's scared of clowns, and she literally makes this giant papier-mâché clown statue that's hollow on the inside. She wants to put it in his house with the help of his roommate, then hide it all night and then pop out of it as soon as he notices it. I tell her this seems a little extreme, but she does it anyway. Fast forward to that night, I got a call from my girlfriend because Fernando apparently punched her in the face as soon as he saw her pop out of the clown. Thing totally is a knee-jerk reaction because he didn't know it was her. Her nose wound up getting broken, and she had to go to the hospital. Now she's fine, although she is still wearing a splint, but she wants to continue pranking Fernando at this point. Should I put my foot down? She is actually getting injured, and it makes me wonder if she just likes being around him so much that she is using the pranks as an excuse. I talked to my girlfriend about Fernando, and I told her that the pranks are getting dangerous and she is unreasonably close to a guy she's only known for such a short amount of time. She literally refers to him as her brother and her BFF, but it's literally been 5 months since they've met. I thought she would react in a mature way, but instead she said, "This is why I'm always pranking Fernando. At least Fernando has a good sense of humor. I wouldn't even need to hang out with Fernando if you weren't so uptight." So at least now I have confirmation that she hangs out with Fernando specifically because she thinks I'm not good enough. We wind up having a screaming match, and the door rings, so she goes to get it. It's this guy in a giant gorilla costume who barges in and starts humping all our furniture. Immediately, I assumed it's Fernando, so I punch him in the face. He takes off the mask, but it's Fernando's roommate, Mateus. Apparently, Fernando paid Mateus $100 to scare us in the gorilla suit as a diversion because he was right behind Mateus while Mateus was humping our furniture. Fernando sneaked into our bedroom and put that under the mattress cover. So I told those two guys to get out and stop at the pranks. I thought I was finally standing up to Fernando, but my girlfriend said the prank was hilarious and that she was going to give me some time to cool off. She left with Mateus and Fernando. And keep in mind, Mateus's nose was still bleeding, and he was still wearing the gorilla suit. I haven't heard from her today, but I saw she posted a picture of a bagel on Instagram this morning, so I know she's awake. I still don't know where she slept last night or what happened with Fernando. I want to break up with her because I'm so angry, but strangely enough, I still really love her and don't want to waste 2 years. I broke up with my girlfriend. I told her pretty much exactly what was suggested. I even told her that I thought her behavior with Fernando was already an emotional affair, if not a physical one. As expected, she freaked out and told me I was being emotionally abusive and controlling. She said that every ex-boyfriend she's had was emotionally abusive, and I was just another one in that category. Since she was only kind of living with me and technically wasn't on the lease, it was pretty easy to kick her out. I wasn't sure if she would go back to her old roommate, where she still had most of her stuff, or if she would start living with Fernando and Mateus. When I asked if she was going to move in with Fernando, she told me it was none of my business anymore. Anyway, that night, I tried to relax. I was pretty upset, but very sure of my decision to break up with her, and I felt like I could start fresh and meet someone new. Then, I started getting a bunch of random calls from a restricted number, but when I picked up, no one spoke. I put my phone on silent, figuring it was one of her childish schemes. In the morning, I saw that I had 60 missed calls from restricted numbers. Then, I got a text from Fernando asking if he could come over to pick up my ex's stuff. So yeah, she moved in with him. I tried to be polite because I just wanted her things out of my apartment, but I also wanted some closure. When he arrived, I told him that his relationship with her directly influenced the breakup and that I knew they were together now. Fernando looked at me surprised and said that he didn't think my ex was into him and that he definitely wasn't into her. I told him to cut the crap, that it didn't matter anymore. He started getting nervous and anxious, so I told him to calm down, that I wasn't going to hurt him, and I just wanted to understand the situation. Then he told me that he knew he contributed to our breakup, but not in the way I thought. Apparently, it was Mateus, not Fernando, who wanted to be with her. Mateus was too shy and asked Fernando to befriend my ex and act as his wingman. Since Fernando had a lot of female friends, Mateus thought that would help him gain her trust. Fernando insisted that the reason he kept pranking her and acting goofy was to make it clear that their relationship wasn't romantic. Apparently, Mateus paid Fernando back for all the times he lost money on pranks. And Mateus was actually the one who paid for my ex's broken nose. I told Fernando that was a stupid plan because my ex moved in with him specifically to be with him, so that sucked for all three of them. Fernando got extremely upset and seemed to be practically shaking at the idea that my ex had feelings for him. So now my ex is living with the guy she has a crush on, who doesn't have feelings for her, and the guy who has a crush on her but was too weird and creepy to say it. I hope they all have fun together. I'm sure she'll contact me again once she realizes the wrong guy is interested. I'm sure she'll come back to me when she realizes the wrong guy is the one who's interested. And it didn't take long for that to happen. At first, I felt relieved to finally be rid of her and all that mess. I could breathe easy without dealing with her ridiculous pranks and unnecessary drama. But, as expected, the peace didn't last. Just over a week after she moved out, I got a message from her. No apologies, no remorse. Just a simple hey. I ignored it. If she wanted something, she could say it directly. But 3 hours later, another message. Can we talk? I could have blocked her, deleted the message, and moved on, but curiosity got the better of me. Not because I wanted her back or had any hope, but because I wanted to see how this mess had played out. I replied with a dry about what? Giving her no room for small talk. She took a while to answer, but when she did, it was a long message saying that we needed to talk about us, that she missed me, and that she didn't think things should have ended like this. I laughed to myself because she talked as if she had been the one to break up, as if I hadn't kicked her out of my life after all the humiliation she put me through. I left her on read and went about my day. But she didn't give up. The next day, another message. Can we meet? I just want to talk. I promise I won't push anything. This time, I didn't ignore her. I replied, if you want to talk, do it here. She insisted on meeting in person, saying it would be better. I told her I didn't see the point, but she kept pushing and eventually I gave in. We agreed to meet at a cafe in the afternoon, in a public place. If she tried any drama, at least she wouldn't be able to cause a scene. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting in the back, scrolling through her phone with the look of someone preparing for a tough conversation. She still had the splint on her nose, a reminder of how far this stupidity had gone. I sat down, unimpressed, ordered a coffee, and got straight to the point. What do you want? She sighed and started with the same old speech. I miss you. I know I went too far with some things, but I really cared about you. I thought we had something special. I rolled my eyes. If you cared that much, you wouldn't have thrown our relationship away for a guy you barely knew. She got defensive. It wasn't like that. I never saw Fernando that way, and you know it. I crossed my arms, waiting for her to keep talking, and that's when the real show began. She told me that after moving in with Fernando, she realized he really had zero interest in her. He treated her like a random roommate, not someone he was remotely attracted to. At first, she tried to ignore it, pretended she didn't care, but then things started to get weird. Mateus, the one who actually wanted her, wasn't what she expected. He was clingy, awkward, always trying to do things for her, but in a way that felt desperate. He would do favors she didn't ask for, insist on cooking for her, and started acting like they were a couple, even though she never gave him any signals. But the worst part? He started making it clear that he expected something in return. One night, after a few beers, Mateus randomly told her that it wasn't fair for him to do so much for her and get nothing back. She said she tried to laugh it off as a joke, but he wasn't joking. He straight up told her if she wasn't serious about him, she should just leave. That's when she realized she had nowhere to go. She couldn't go back to her old roommate because she had already given up the place. She had no money to rent somewhere on her own, and now she was stuck in a house with two guys. One who didn't want her there, and another who was becoming increasingly obsessive. That's when she realized she had screwed up. And, of course, she wanted to come running back to me. I listened to everything in silence, showing little reaction, just sipping my coffee while she spiraled. When she finished, she looked at me expectantly. "So, what do you think?" I almost laughed. What did I think? I thought she was finally getting what she deserved. "I think you should have thought about this earlier." Her eyes widened, like she really thought I'd take her back. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious." I leaned forward slightly and looked her straight in the eyes. "You treated me like trash. You humiliated me, made a fool out of me, threw me away for two random guys thinking life would be better without me. And now that you realize you screwed up, you want to save you? Do you even hear how ridiculous that sounds?" She started stammering excuses, saying she had been naive, that she never meant to hurt me, that she was just having fun. But I didn't care anymore. "You made your choice. Now deal with it." I got up, left some money for the coffee, and walked out without looking back, leaving her there completely defeated. In the days that followed, she tried everything. Messages, calls, even showed up at my building once. But I never gave her another chance. She didn't deserve one. Later, I heard through a mutual friend that she ended up leaving Fernando in Mateus's place. Mateus lost it and made a scene, saying she had used him and that it wasn't fair. Fernando, on the other hand, just sighed in relief. In the end, she had to scramble for a place to stay, and the last I heard, she was crashing on some distant friend's couch. And honestly, that was nothing. She played with fire, thought she could toy with me and walk away unscathed, and now she was getting exactly what she deserved. Meanwhile, I moved on, free from all the stupidity. After that meeting at the cafe, I thought I had finally closed that chapter of my life. But of course, she wasn't going to accept it that easily. In the days that followed, she kept trying. Messages, calls, even waiting outside my building for an entire night. I ignored everything. But then the rumors started. Mutual acquaintances started messaging me, asking if I knew that my ex was bad-mouthing me. According to her, I was a vindictive narcissist, an obsessive control freak, and my personal favorite, an emotionally abusive monster who abandoned her when she needed me most. I didn't even have to respond. Anyone who knew the full story had already distanced themselves from her. But the final straw came when a friend told me that Mateus, yes, the same creep who tried to manipulate her into being with him, was going around saying that I was a coward for dumping her and that I needed to settle this like a man. That's when I realized this guy wasn't getting away with it. Until then, I had let things slide, thinking my ex was already dealing with the consequences of her actions and that Mateus would destroy himself eventually. But after hearing this, I decided I was going to handle it my way. This guy spent months sneaking around my relationship, manipulating my girlfriend while pretending to be just a friend. And now he wanted to act tough? That same night, I went to their apartment. I knocked on the door and waited. A few seconds later, Fernando opened it. He looked surprised, tense, and before he could say anything, I got straight to the point. "Where's Mateus?" Fernando sighed and looked away. He knew this guy deserved what was coming. "In his room," he said quietly, stepping aside. I didn't hesitate. I went straight to Mateus's door and pushed it open without knocking. He was sitting on his bed, phone in hand, acting like he had nothing to worry about. He looked up and smirked. "Oh, so you finally decided to show up." I didn't answer. I shut the door behind me and stepped toward him. Mateus started to get up, but I didn't give him the chance. The first punch landed square on his jaw, and he stumbled back, hitting the wall. "This is what you wanted, Mateus. To settle it like men." He tried to push me away, but he was weak. I hit him again, this time in the stomach, and he collapsed onto the floor, groaning in pain. "You got close to my girlfriend, manipulated her, and now you want to play the victim." Mateus coughed, trying to say something, but I grabbed him by the collar and shoved him against the wall again. "You pretended to be your friend, acted like you were harmless, but in reality, you were just waiting to stab me in the back, weren't you?" I spat, watching the panic in his eyes. "You waited until she was vulnerable so you could take advantage." I I never forced anything. He stammered, his voice shaking. But you expected something in return, didn't you? Thought that doing favors for her meant she owed you her body? He didn't answer. Just sat there, sweating, trembling, too scared to speak. That's when the door burst open. My ex. She screamed when she saw Mateus on the floor, his face already bruised from the blows. Stop. Please stop this. I turned to her, breathing heavily. Now you want to defend this piece of shit? No, it's not that. Just, this won't change anything. Please, let's talk. Her voice was desperate. I took a deep breath and looked her straight in the eyes. I knew exactly how to end this for good. I can't. What? She looked completely confused. I can't, because I'm with someone else. The shock on her face was immediate. What did you just say? You didn't think I'd just sit around waiting for you, did you? I crossed my arms. I've moved on. I'm with someone who actually respects me. Someone who doesn't play stupid games. Someone who doesn't humiliate me in front of everyone. I watched her crumble. Her whole expression changed, like she couldn't even process what I was saying. You're just saying that to hurt me. Believe whatever you want. But my life is moving forward, and now yours needs to too. She shook her head, trying to come up with some response, but I was done. I turned back to Mateus, still on the floor, defeated, and gave him one last warning. If I hear you talking about me again, I'll be back. And next time, no one will be here to save you. Without waiting for an answer, I walked out of the room and passed by Fernando, who just shook his head as if to say, I told you this would happen. When I left that apartment for the first time in months, I felt like I had really closed the door on all of it. My ex never contacted me again. I guess after hearing I was with someone else. Her pride took a hit she couldn't recover from. And Mateus? Well, I heard he moved out shortly after. Maybe he finally realized he was just a rat who never belonged among wolves. In the end, I walked away from all of this with a lesson. I learned to value myself. And them? They stayed exactly where they deserved to be. A few weeks had passed since that night, when I put Mateus in his place and finally got rid of my ex. It was a relief not having to deal with her desperate messages, ridiculous rumors, or anything else tied to that circus. My life was peaceful, and I was enjoying this new phase, free from all that toxicity. Then, one day, I got an unexpected message. Fernando. I was surprised. It wasn't a threat, not a provocation, just a simple, can we talk? I stared at my phone for a while, wondering what he could possibly want. I never had anything against him directly, but after all the crap my ex and Mateus had pulled, I had my doubts about anything related to them. Still, for some reason, I decided to reply. About what? He took a while to answer, but when he did, he was straight to the point. I don't know, man. I just think we should talk. This whole thing was a joke. I'll buy you a beer if you hear me out. That caught me off guard. He didn't sound like someone looking for trouble, and it didn't feel like some fake apology either. It seemed genuine. After thinking for a few minutes, I agreed. We set up a meeting at a small bar, nothing too crowded. I was still skeptical, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. When I arrived, Fernando was already there, sitting at a table with 2 beers waiting. As soon as he saw me, he raised his hand in a casual greeting. Glad you came. I sat down without much enthusiasm, grabbed my beer, and took a sip before speaking. All right, what's up? He sighed, rolling his glass between his hands before answering. Your ex, Mateus, all of this. I need to say that you were right all along. I raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. I never had anything against you, but I got caught up in this mess without realizing it. At first, I thought the pranks were just harmless fun. But when your ex moved into my place and started acting like everything was a game, man, it disgusted me. He took another sip and went on. She thought that just because she was there, I'd automatically want her. But there was never anything between us. I never felt anything for her. And when she realized that, she started throwing hints, trying to provoke me, even suggested that we have some fun just to see what would happen. I laughed in disbelief, shaking my head. So, she tried it on you too? Man, this woman never learns. Fernando laughed too, but then he sighed. The worst part was that when I figured out what was happening, I made a decision. I told her straight up, look, you need to find another place to stay because this isn't going to work. And how did she take it? He chuckled, shaking his head like he still couldn't believe it. She lost it, said it was unfair, that she had been through enough and that I should understand her situation. Call me a traitor, cold-hearted, everything you can think of. But I didn't care. I just wanted my peace back. I clinked my glass against his. Now you're finally thinking straight, man. Yeah, but here's the best part. She had nowhere to go. Mateus didn't want her there anymore either, so she had to figure out on her own. Oh, so Mateus finally got tired of the game too? Not exactly. Fernando paused. He was just pissed when he realized she was never into him. She was only using him for a place to stay. I burst out laughing. So the idiot who spent months messing with me, working against me, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, ended up being used and thrown away like trash. Fernando nodded, taking another drink. Exactly. And he didn't handle it well. After she left, he got bitter, started acting weird. I even heard he tried to reach out to her again, but she completely ignored him. So he didn't even get to be with her? Nope. And trust me, that hurt him more than anything. We sat in silence for a moment, just soaking in the irony of the whole situation. Then Fernando raised his glass. I think we should toast to that. I lifted mine too, to the end of this ridiculous soap opera. We clinked glasses and drank, laughing like we had been friends forever. And maybe at that moment, we actually were. Over the next few months, our friendship only grew stronger. Fernando turned out to be a solid guy, someone who had just been caught up in a mess he didn't ask for. He was just as tired of all the drama as I was. And in the end, we were the only ones who came out winning. As for my ex, well, from what I heard, she ended up renting a tiny room, sharing space with two other girls she barely knew. No one paid attention to her anymore. No one cared about her stories. The grand game she tried to play ended with her alone and irrelevant. And Mateus? After his massive ego blow, he disappeared. I heard he moved to another city, probably trying to start over, but honestly, I couldn't care less. He got exactly what he deserved. And me? I moved on with my life. Fernando and I became great friends, hanging out, talking about anything and everything, and laughing at that absurd past. And in the end, I think that's what made it all easier to let go. Knowing that at the end of the day, the ones who tried to screw us over ended up screwing themselves while we raised our glasses in victory. And I have to say, a beer had never tasted so good. Months had passed since that whole mess with Fernando, Mateus, and my ex. After everything that happened, I was able to move on and reclaim my peace. I no longer had to deal with stupid pranks, pointless arguments, or feeling like I was competing with a guy my girlfriend clearly prioritized more than me. I really thought I'd never hear from her again. But as life loves to throw unexpected twists, one day, a mutual friend sent me a message. Dude, you won't believe this. Fernanda is pregnant. I read that message 3 times, trying to process it. Pregnant? My first reaction was to laugh. Not out of malice, but because it was so absurd that it felt like a joke. But then came the detail that made it even more insane. And she's alone. Looks like the father is Mateus. At that moment, I felt a mix of shock and disgust. I knew that after I kicked her out of my life, Fernanda was lost. She no longer had a stable relationship. She no longer had that prank war to feed her need for attention. And from the looks of it, reality had hit her like a brick wall. But I never imagined she would spiral so far down that she'd end up pregnant by Mateus. I couldn't help but laugh even harder. Apparently, after she left Fernando's place, with no direction and little support, she started hooking up with anyone who gave her the slightest bit of attention. And guess who was always around, desperate for a shot? Mateus. But Mateus wasn't completely stupid. He knew she never actually liked him, that she was just using him to fill a void. But deep down, he was such a pathetic loser that he accepted it, until things got out of hand. When Fernanda found out she was pregnant, Mateus vanished, blocked her, ignored all her calls, and even left the group chat with their mutual friends. The last thing he wanted was to be tied to a woman who never really wanted him and a child that was clearly not in his plans. Now Fernanda was alone, broke, friendless, and with a baby on the way. And she had the audacity to try and reach out to me. I got a message from an unknown number. Can we talk? I ignored it. The next day, another message. Please, I need to talk to you. Ignored again. Then came the calls. When I realized she wasn't going to stop, I answered just to shut it down once and for all. What do you want? I asked, already annoyed. She was silent for a second, like she was shocked I had picked up. I just wanted to talk. About what? About everything. About how I feel, about what's happening to me. I roll my eyes. Fernanda, what happens to you is no longer my problem. You made your choices. Now deal with them. Please, I just need someone to talk to. I have no one. And whose fault is that? Silence. You spent months playing with people around you, treating them like pawns in your little game. You made a fool out of me, replaced me with your best friend, and now you're begging because he ditched you? I heard her sniffle like she was about to cry. I didn't know things would turn out this way, but I did, and I warned you. You had everything in your hands and threw it away. And now you expect me to help you? I don't want money. I don't want anything from you. I just wanted someone to listen, then pay for a therapist. I hung up on her. It felt amazing. For a long time, I wondered if I'd been too harsh, if maybe I had overreacted. But hearing her desperate voice, knowing she was finally facing the consequences of her actions, gave me a sense of justice I didn't even realize I needed. And the funniest part? Mateus, the guy who spent months trying to ruin my life, trying to make me look bad, trying to steal my girlfriend, was now running away like the coward he always was. He wanted to play dirty, destroy my relationship, and take my place, but in the end, he was the one who got trapped. After that call, I never heard from her again. The last thing I found out was that she was trying to get her family to help her raise the baby, but no one wanted to take responsibility for her mess. And honestly, that didn't surprise me one bit. I moved on with my life, made new friends, started a new relationship, and left all that drama in the past. Fernando and I became close friends, hanging out, grabbing drinks, and laughing about how, in the end, everything worked out perfectly for us. And in the end, there was only one lesson. If you play with fire, you get burned.